He kissed my eyelids in the darkness under the fig sycamore. We better go back to the others, he said, Omeo said. Bashemoth and Millie were drinking tea, sitting at the table. I hoped it didn't look as though I'd been crying. Noreen came toward me. Where were you, Polly? She accused. That same young man phoned you again, and I couldn't find you. Bashemoth said in her calm, deep voice, She doesn't have to tell you whenever she goes for a walk, Noreen. Well, you missed him once more, Noreen said to me. Is he going to call again? I asked. He didn't say. I wasn't sure whether I wanted him to or not. This world of Ossia Fiola was a completely different world from Athens, and Zachary seemed alien to it. Still, I was glad he had called. I was glad he had sent flowers. Tea, Noreen? Millie asked. Polly? No, thank you, Noreen said. I have work to do. Do you need me? I asked. I typed Bashemoth's stencil. Shall I run it off? Not now, Polly. I'm going over some of my lectures. Then I love some tea, I said. Noreen trotted across the dusty compound to the office, and Bashemoth got a mug, and Millie poured me tea from the large pot on the table. Millie said, There are some hot peppers by the dormitory building. I picked a few to add to the dinner tonight. This food is good, but not overly seasoned. Bashemoth spoke, following her own train of thought. Do not let Noreen bother you with her sharp ways. She has a heart of gold. She doesn't bother me, I replied, and I'm here to work, but not to be overworked. Oh, I'm not. And I like work. Omeo drained his mug. We're not likely to have another free afternoon. How about a swim? Or is it too hot? Much too hot, Bashemoth said. I don't swim. I'm afraid of crocodiles, Millie said. Omeo laughed. But this is Cyprus, not Cameroon. Nevertheless, Millie said firmly, No, thank you. I love a swim, I said. Let's meet under the fig sycamore. Omeo smiled at me. He was there, waiting for me, and we started downhill. Polly, forgive me. For what? I have given you, Lo, a romantic picture of Baki. And it's not only the Christians there who have done bad things. If the missionaries were not overly concerned about whether or not the women covered themselves, it was because they were more concerned about the black magic, the witchcraft. Using hateful, hurting magic was as bad as beating a man and rubbing salt in the wounds. Worse, it could kill. We Bakians and the Christians were alike, some good people, turning the heart to love, others wicked, turning to greed and power. He was holding my hand, swinging it as we walked. I said, I guess everybody's like that, and then I asked, Does your laughing Christ always laugh? His hand squeezed mine. It is said that in time of great disaster, tears fall from his eyes. My great-grandfather is supposed to have seen him cry before a tidal wave which killed many of our people. I have seen only the laughter, and there have been bad things in Baki. But if I ever saw him cry, I think I would be very afraid. Did the statue on Max's Landing ever weep? We left the house of the village and moved quietly along the path protected by high walls of grasses plumed with pale fronds, bleached by the fierce sun. And then we came to a tiny pasture I hadn't noticed the night before in the dark. In the pasture were the most beautiful little goats I'd ever seen, with soft silky hair and long drooping ears. We stopped and... We stopped and admired them. They looked at us with great startled eyes, then went back to grazing. When we reached a place which Fee had tried to clear of stones, Omeo sat down in the water and began to throw stones far up on the shore to make the path wider. I joined him, throwing the rounder stones as far as possible. If we keep at this a little every day, Omeo said, we will keep the path open. I think V is tender feet. She is a poet. That seemed rather a non sequitur, but I thought it likely that V did have tender feet, or she wouldn't have bothered to move the stones. My cut foot was not that tough either. I was glad of the path. When we had finished throwing what Omeo decided were enough stones, he said, Last night you held back because of V, and that was and that was nice of you, but I think you swim well. Let's race. And he splashed into the water and threw himself under a breaker. I followed. I have learned that it is not a good idea for a girl to beat a man in a race, even though I think that's stupid. However, I did not have to hold back with Omeo. It was all I could do to keep up with him. How do you come to swim so well? He asked while we were splashing into shore. The sun was low on the horizon. Evening came early to Cyprus, and the sky was flushed with a lovely light. I lived on islands most of my life. We swim a lot. Omeo took my hand, and we walked on up the beach. You are promised? He asked. What? You have a boyfriend? A special one? No. In Baki, by your age, a woman is at least promised. In my country, I'm considered too young. At least my parents would certainly think so. Omeo swung my hand. It's time we went home. He gave me his shining smile. It is home, isn't it? Yes. Already the monastery was home. After the evening meal, with the dark closing in, Chris said that we would stay in the cloister for the staff meeting instead of going to the upper room. He had each of the staff members talk a little bit about what they planned to do. Bashemoth expected to have everything ready for a book fair, posters and all, by the first weekend. Millie hoped they'd be telling their own stories. Frank talked about the hope for small presses, and then, at his urging, Millie sang for us, and then Noreen suggested that Omeo do one of the Bakian dances. Without embarrassment, Omeo stood up and stripped off his t-shirt, kicked off his sandals. Then he moved into a dance which started with his entire body undulating in slow rhythm. Then the tempo accelerated until Chris began to clap, joined by Frank, then Millie, and Noreen. Then Omeo squatted low to the ground with one leg, then the other, stretching out, somewhat like Russian Cossack dances, but much more quickly, incredibly quickly, and then he rose, until he was leaping high into the air. Fingers stretched him taller, higher. Then the clapping began to come more slowly, winding him down. He was glistening with sweat, breathing short, panting gasps, and the clapping changed from being an accompaniment to the dance to applause. Lo, now we must sing Saranam. His voice was breathless, and he looked to Millie, who started singing. In the midst of foes I cry to thee, from the ends of earth, wherever I may be, my strength and helplessness, oh answer me. Saranam, Saranam, Saranam. Make my heart to grow as great as thine, so through my hurt your love may shine. My love be yours, your love be mine. Saranam, Saranam, Saranam. What does it mean, Saranam? I asked. Refuge, Noreen said. God's richest blessing, Millie added. Chris said, there's no English equivalent. Frank laughed. There doesn't need to be. Saranam says it all. Loving, giving, caring. Omeo said, I think it is like a Bakian word which means that love does not judge. V added, love is not love which alters when an alteration finds. What's that? Bashemoth asked. Shakespeare from one of the sonnets. Shakespeare? Millie asked. Sonnets? Asked Bashemoth. Suddenly, I realized that things I'd taken for granted as part of my background were unknown to people of other cultures. Shakespeare is probably our greatest writer in the English language, V said, and the sonnet is a form of poetry. I'll talk about it in one of the workshops. I even hope to have people writing sonnets. Another thing I realized was how little I knew about V. I knew from her poems and novels that she had loved and passionately. Because of Noreen, I knew she had an insane husband. There were a few chinks my imagination could fill in, but I realized something else that evening. I realized I was too young to understand much that had happened in the lives of these people who had quickly become my friends. We finished the lemonade, which was tart and lovely, and Chris sent us off to bed. I walked across the compound with Omeo and V. Too late for a swim, she said. Oh, well, we'll make time tomorrow. Too bad Frank can't come with us, I said. V nodded. He does swim at home in a pool. He misses it. Lo, he's a kind man, is Frank, Omeo said. Yes, V agreed. I wonder if someone who has never suffered, known loss and pain, is capable of true kindness. Omeo took my hand. We find much true kindness here in Osea Fiola. I watered Zachary's flowers, which were thirsty in this heat, then wrote in my school journal till my eyes drooped with sleep. Got into bed and turned out the light, could smell the punky odor of mosquito coil. Could smell the bug repellent I sprayed on the shutters. My eyes were still itchy, so I guess closing the shutters was worth it. Under my door, I could see a line of yellow from the hall where the light burned all night. A faint glow filtered through the shutters, and I longed to be able to open them to the sky and the night birds and the sound of the sea. I turned on my stomach. My pillow was hot, so I pushed it onto the floor. I thought of Omeo coming to find me under the fig sycamore tree, and I felt his lips brushing my eyelids. I woke up in a pile of sweat. I could not hear the dull whir of the fan. There was no line of light under the door, because the power tended to go out on Benesine whenever all the development people ran their air conditioners. Because the power tended to go out of Benesine whenever all the development people ran their air conditioners. I guess that the power in the monastery maybe have gone off because all the fans were on. I appeared at the travel alarm, 3:10. I got up and drew open one shutter, just enough so that I could slip out on the balcony. The sky was filled with stars. There were no lights on in the village, so the power was off there too. No one was stirring, except the mosquitoes. I withdrew and got back into my damp bed. I could hear Millie snoring, and her snore was so different from her glorious voice that it made me giggle. Millie looked as though she should have a baby in her arms. Noreen had said that all Millie's family had died. Children too? I would have liked to have Millie come in and sit by me and stroke my hair back from my forehead and sing to me one of the verses from Sarana, maybe, but I was not Millie's child, and I wasn't a child anymore. It felt lonely. Mother came in to me the night Rennie brought me home and sat on the bed by me, reaching her hand out to smooth my hair. Rennie didn't tell me how you cut your foot. I was running barefoot on Max's driveway like an idiot. It was lucky Rennie dropped by. That was the story I cooked up and sold to Rennie. Why would Rennie have dropped by? He's Max's doctor. Peripherally, his sis nets him. That would hold water if she checked it out. But you're upset about something other than your foot. Usually, I could tell anything to Mother. I told her when that gross kid exposed himself to me while we were standing in line at the school cafeteria. Something smooth and slightly damp touched my hand, and I turned, and there he was, sticking himself out at me. It was nasty, and I felt dirty, but it didn't really have anything to do with me or even that stupid boy. And Mother could tell me that the same thing had happened to her, and she had felt like me, dirty, and wanting to take a bath. But this wasn't something outside me that essentially didn't have anything to do with me, and I couldn't say a word. Mother didn't try to use a can opener on me the way some mothers might. She just sat by me, stroking my hair, waiting. But I didn't speak. I closed my eyes. When she thought I was asleep, she left. Running in a way provided a smokescreen. He called first thing in the morning, saying that he was coming over to Benesine to check my foot. Daddy could perfectly well have checked my foot. Mother could have checked my foot. It didn't need a doctor, but Rennie came mid-morning, and Mother brought him into the living room, where I was sitting in a comfortable leather chair with my foot up on the footstool. The rest of the kids were swimming, and they'd evidently been told not to bug me, because they pretty well left me alone, even Zan and Kate. Mother brought Rennie and me some iced tea, then left us, saying she was in the middle of baking bread. Unlike Ursula, Mother did not bake bread often, and it was usually a sign that she was disturbed. As soon as she had gone, Rennie wanted to know where I was in my menstrual cycle and was relieved when I told him I was just over my period. Then he was full of rather incoherent apologies. He rebandaged my foot, saying that it was healing nicely. Nell sends her best. He sounded awkward. What about Nell? I asked. Nell's a good friend. He sounded surprised. She's engaged to one of the male nurses, and they're both friends of mine. Why did that make me feel better about Nell, and a little ashamed about having asked Rennie? He put my foot down on the stool. Did you think I was sleeping with Nell? I didn't know. What would the general promiscuity in Coopertown and other places? I can hardly be surprised that it crossed your mind. However, Polly, if I had been, I wouldn't have taken you there. I don't sleep around. I'm Renier. My relationship with Jacinta was not celibate, but I'm a lot older than you. Sweet Polly, what happened between us mustn't happen again. It mustn't happen with you at all, not with me, not with anybody, until you're older and ready to make real commitment. I'm not planning to sleep around either, I said stiffly. He studied my bandaged foot. It's hard to remember you're only 16. You seem so much older in so many ways. He let his breath out gustily. Polly, you're very attractive. Don't you know I've played lusted after you all summer? And yesterday, it got the better of me because you didn't seduce me, Rennie. I wanted it. And no, I had no idea you lusted after me. No idea at all. I wanted it too, but I shouldn't have. I looked down at his hand, lying on the stool near my foot, and shoulds and shouldn'ts meant nothing at all. Rennie took our empty glasses and put them on the table. He was very, Renier. Rennie, stop. I'm glad what happened with you, but I choked up. Oh, Polly, honey, I'm sorry. I know you're hurting. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Max was there between us, but neither of us mentioned her name. Daddy came in to me that evening after I was ready for bed. Foot feeling better? It's fine. Rennie checked it this morning. Mother told me. Polly, is something wrong between you and Rennie? No, Rennie's a good friend. Are you sure? Sure. What about you and Max? What about me and Max? Mother said Max called today and you wouldn't come to the phone. Rennie said I shouldn't walk on my foot. Was that the only reason? Daddy, I was getting too dependent on Max. What made you realize it? Rennie, Max is a dying woman. You can't just drop her like a hot coal. Daddy, I was like a kid idolizing Max. It wasn't good. No, Polly, idolatry is never good. But Max and Ursula have been a good influence on you. You've been doing admirably in school, and you've been particularly pleasant to have around the house. I wish Sam did his jobs in the lab as diligently as you do yours. Did anything happen to make you decide you were too dependent on Max? He was looking at me, not his daddy look, but diagnostically, trying to see through what I was saying to what was really wrong, but he didn't see. It was just time. Did anything happen to upset you when you stayed at Baudelaire? Max drank too much. Was she in pain? Yes. Why didn't you call me? I don't know. People with too much alcohol in them are always unpleasant, though to a certain extent it's understandable with Max. How much too much did she have? Daddy, she was drunk. It's not good to idolize people, Paul. You're right. I don't condone Max's drinking, but you have to allow even the people you most admire to be complex and contradictory like everybody else. The more interesting somebody is, the more complex. Sure, you don't have to like it, honey, but you do have to understand it. Okay, Daddy stood up. All right, Polly, I'm sorry Max showed you her clay feet. If you want to talk about it further, remember, Mother and I are right here. Yes, I'm glad. Thanks. He left, and in a few minutes I heard a knock on my door. Zan's knock. I didn't want to talk to him, so I just let him knock. The soft knocking on my door roused me. I got out of bed and opened the door onto darkness. It's Millie, came her gentle voice with a slight tremor. My fan's off. I think the power's out. She followed me into the room, holding my arm, and then sat on the first bed. Do you think something's wrong? Millie was obviously afraid, so I said reassuringly, "It's just a power failure. You don't think it's some kind of emergency?" "No, Millie, I think it's okay." Suddenly, I realized that while a power outage was to me a sign of poor electricity, to Millie it could mean that a power plant had been bombed, it could mean a military coup, an attack on civilians. "I'll go check." I got up and slipped onto the balcony. Nothing but normal night sounds. But Cyprus was an island of many emergencies, of being overrun by Italians, Turks, British, and, within the memory of everybody there, the Turks again. Millie came from a world of emergencies, of small countries fighting to get out from under the domination of foreign powers. I understood why she would be so afraid that she would fumble through the darkness to make contact with someone in the next room. I went back in. "Everything's okay. All quiet. I'm sure it's just the power going off because it's so hot and everybody's got fans on and probably air conditioners at the hotel." "Thanks, Polly dear. Thanks. I'll go back to bed now." I lit a match and helped her back to her room, standing in the doorway until I heard her bed creak and she called good night. I went back to bed, but there was no sound from Millie's room, no comfortable snoring. I wondered what she was remembering. I got up early enough to finish making the beds, and then I still had time to go into the church for a few minutes before breakfast. I went deep into the interior, to the dark entrance of the cave. A shadow moved, and I turned to see V coming toward me. I always drop in when the doors are open, she said. "It's a very special place." I nodded. Ossia Fiola is indeed kind in what she lets us know about ourselves. She tells me that I'm stronger than I think I am. I brought a little icon of her to take home. There's some nice ones in that little shop up the hill. We were silent for a while. Then V asked gently, "What did Fiola tell you?" "She warned the cold place in my heart," I said. "She's helping the ice to thaw." But you have a loving heart, Polly. That's one of the first things I noticed about you. I'm glad Fiola's making you realize it." She laughed a little wistfully. "Some people would call this the rankest superstition. But is it? What happens in a place does leave its imprints. Even today, the sites of the concentration camps have a bone-chilling cold, no matter how hot the day. Ossia Fiola left love here, and we can catch it from her." The ancient sacristan came up to us then with 2 tiny bouquets. He too must have picked up the largeness of love from Blessed Fiola because he warmed us with it. We left the candlelit church and went to breakfast.